Unbelievable.
All right, anytime you're ready, Willie.
I need like an intro song
No
or something.
intro.
No intro?
No, just start.
All right, welcome in. Garza Law, Extra Innings, Tennessee Baseball, here in the Ray Mears studio at the Basilio residence. Tennessee loses 8-7 in the rubber match in a rainy Athens in heartbreaking fashion. Still trying to wrap my head around what just went on. Blake Grimmer makes it a one-run game with a solo homer to start the top of the ninth. With 2 outs and nobody on, Levi Clark singles. Stone Lawless pinch hits for Ariel Antigua. Hits the ball high and deep to left field. Slams his bat like it's 80 feet out of the stadium. And Georgia freshman left fielder, I believe it was Will Johnson, robs it. And the game is over. Tough one to swallow. But thanks for joining us here on this Sunday. SEC opening weekend is wrapping up. I believe Tennessee is one of the few, if not the last teams to finish up this weekend. There may be still a couple games going on in the Central Time Zone. The Texas Ole Miss game, Vanderbilt, LSU in their game 3. A lot of teams played yesterday due to impending weather, played a doubleheader, but Garza Law Extra Innings is brought to you by Garza Law. Thank you very much. But also want to give a shout out to Proper Popcorn, one of our lovely sponsors. They've got 2 locations. If you haven't been there, downtown Knoxville and Market Square, also in West Knoxville. The shops at Franklin Square. Both squares, you can get Proper Popcorn. Each batch is made on site at the shops. Over 50 flavors you can sample. The s'mores is gas. The Nealon mix is also gas. The zebra drizzle, you got to try that one. Pop on into Proper Popcorn. Matt Dixon, let me get your opening thoughts on this series finale loss for Tennessee. A team that showed a lot of fight, was up 5-0 at one point. A lot of frustration, obviously blowing a 5-run lead, but it's tough to beat a top 10 team in their home ballpark. What did you see? While Matt's giving his opening thoughts, give us a shout if you want to join in the show, 865-200-5402. Call in. We're going to be taking some calls here in just a second. Matt, go ahead.
Yeah, just a really frustrating end to what was, I guess, overall a frustrating weekend where you lose 2 out of 3 in 3 really highly competitive games. Really disappointed to lose the last 2 after winning what I thought was a really high-level game Friday night. But, just a really awful way to end it. But, if we're looking ahead, I saw a lot of encouraging signs, especially at the plate. Mm-hmm. A lot of competitive and really good at-bats that we kind of built on. And even in that game 2 where we only scored 2 runs, I thought we had some competitive at-bats that put pressure on Georgia. Some stuff we haven't really seen all year from this team, but they kind of built on that Tennessee Tech explosion. And really both teams had a lot of just clutch 2-out, 2-strike hits throughout the weekend. Unfortunately, Georgia just kind of had the big inning there in the 7th today to put it over the top. But, we saw some fight from Tennessee. We saw it all weekend. And that was something that we had talked about last year was just missing from last year's team, that complimentary innings where you'd score some runs, but you'd give them right back. I mean, this team gave up leads, came back, a couple of times this weekend, and we're about a foot away from retaking the lead there in the 9th today. So a lot of encouraging signs from what is ultimately a disappointing weekend, but you at least won 1 game, and you had opportunities to win both of the other games, and really it just sucks to lose the game today, to get up 3-0 early and then have a 5-0 lead with Blanco on the mound. I feel like that's just a game that really, really good teams don't lose. But unfortunately, we found a way to kind of let them hang around and then have a big inning and beat us. But still encouraging signs, especially at the plate.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll get more into what we saw at the plate as we get into the show, but everybody's going to talk about that 5-run 7th inning. So might as well get out ahead of it. I mean, Krenzel just flat out left in the game too long. Absolutely left in the game too long. He gets the first guy out, and then you've got a single followed by 2 walks. Like, he was 97 last week. It's raining. He was clearly uncomfortable as soon as he came into the game because he had to go, like, get a towel to wipe off his hand. Like, he just wasn't comfortable. And then the breaking ball had no spin. He was like 92 after being 97 last week, or like 95, 96, top of 7. But, I mean, he wasn't anywhere close to that today. Just clearly didn't have it, right? And he was phenomenal the last 2 weeks, but I don't know. It's just, it felt like that was coming, and just a young head coach making a mistake there, leaving a guy in my opinion.
Yeah. He clearly doesn't like pitching in rain with the wet balls, and you just kind of left him out there to.
With the heart of their order up, too.
Yeah, they had the right guys up, and they made you pay. I mean, that was. Yeah, left him in a little too long, which was weird because you had basically a full complement because you'd only used 2 relievers, through 2 games. So tried to stretch Blanco out a little and made it work actually with him. And then you just, left, like you said, left Krenzel out there just a tad too long.
Yeah, that was frustrating. It may have happened either way, but I would have rather taken my chances with somebody else, at least slowed the game down, bring another guy in. He just clearly didn't have it. I would have gone with somebody who had, a little bit more conviction, or at least just, take my chances with what I don't know. What I do know is that Krenzel was not feeling it. Let's go to the phones. Welcome in. You're on the air.
Hey, well, you've taken the obvious talking point. I don't want to beat a dead horse, but the decision to leave him in, it's not even one of those hindsight decisions where it's like the guy hits a home run and then you go back and question it in hindsight. I think everybody was thinking, why are we leaving Krenzel in for the heart of the order here? He loaded the bases. You let him face the best hitter and the best deep ball hitter in the country, and I felt, frankly, a little fortunate to get out of that with a single.
And then still didn't pull him.
You're thinking, thinking, surely we're pulling him now. Okay, he let him challenge their best hitter, and I just, it's unfathomable, and it's kind of leaving me at the point where, I'm not overreacting to the series. It's kind of like you feel good, proud of the players, and you're kind of going, what the heck was that from the coaching staff? Is that a philosophy thing? Is that they think they've got a matchup? Like, why even consider leaving him in there?
I mean, if it's a matchup thing, the guy they brought in behind him was a righty as well, in Rudy. It wasn't like Mark Hindy was loose, or Appenzell, or Arvidsson,
Yeah, it doesn't make things look any better that, Rudy came in and kind of mowed everybody down, had a great couple innings. I mean, it's just really, that's a tough one to swallow. And, I thought when that ball left Stone Lawless's bat, it was going 450 feet. But I guess it hung up. I don't. Yeah. I would kind of make fun of him for pimping it, but I think I pimped it harder on my back porch. So I can't fault the guy. The thing looked like it was launched.
Yeah. I looked at Tony and was like, oh my God, we just took the lead. Like, he just hit it out. And I was like, okay, we got a few more minutes before Garza Law extra inning starts, because we're going to have to play this bottom of the ninth, see if Tennessee can hold on. Kind of look away, and then hear the announcers get all riled up again, and I was like, oh my God, did that stay in the park? I didn't even realize he had robbed it at first. It just looked like he had caught it in front of the wall. I was like, did the wind just pick up after the rain? Like, normally it's pretty calm after rain. But I guess he just missed it, and it was good. It was, it would have been a home run, but it was not far enough to get over the left fielder's head. So,
got to be happy with the ninth. I mean, you get a leadoff home run and decent at bats. Good to see Levi Clark producing.
Two hits today, I think.
Yeah, he did. And
won?
Manny Marin feels like he's kicking it in as well,
yeah.
which is a great sign.
Yeah. The offense, I was very, very pleased with this weekend. Even yesterday, they only scored 2 runs, but I thought the at-bats were very competitive. They hit a ton of balls hard right at people and faced 2 really good arms. And it was just one of those days. It was like, okay, Georgia punches back, evens the series. Like, we just lost a baseball game. But overall, offensively and then behind the pitching defensively, they were so clean this weekend. How many double plays, Matt? Like 5 or 6 double plays turned. They gave Jay an error in that 5-run 7th for slipping. I don't know that was an error, but they only had 1 or 2 on the whole weekend.
Yeah, that's a tough error considering they didn't give Georgia any errors for those hard hit balls that got through.
Yeah, he was going to score anyway.
Tennessee's been really, really good defensively all year, but it really showed this weekend with turning some of those double plays to get out of jams. They've easily been the best defensive team, especially the infield, that in recent years.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's a great point. It's probably the best defensive SEC series we've seen in a couple of years. Ford had me nervous at the beginning of the year that we kind of had sacrificed the glove at third base for another big bat, but he's kind of shoring it up. And with the middle of the infield being able to turn to, I hate to say it, without Antigua in there, it kind of feels like it gives comfort to use him as a defensive sub at the end of the game only instead of feeling like you got to have him in the whole game. So that's another positive.
For
Overall, sure. Coming in, I would have thought 1 out of 3 isn't a bad result at all. It's just knowing you had a really great chance to take the series makes it sting, but it more encouraging than discouraging, I would say. So I'll hang up and listen. Appreciate you guys.
Yeah, appreciate it. That's a fair point, Matt. I was kind of in the same boat, but like he said, when the circumstances change, so do your hopes and expectations, if that makes any sense. But 865-200-5402 here on Garza Law, Extra Innings, Tennessee Baseball. Frustrating end to an overall frustrating weekend for Tennessee sports as a whole. I didn't know it was possible, but somehow Vanderbilt turned me into a Florida and Arkansas fan, both in the span of 24 hours. So I was glad to see Arkansas beat Vanderbilt today in the SEC basketball tournament, but Tennessee will figure out where they're going for March Madness here on Selection Sunday. Matt, I'm assuming that's coming up in a few hours here. I guess the Big Ten is one of the last official tickets to be punched, but both those teams are in anyways. But Tennessee baseball, like we said, 1-3, not a horrible result for your opening weekend on the road, a top 10 team, but just with how it went down today, feels like one definitely got away. And when the margins are so thin in this league, you just cannot give away a game that you feel like you should win, especially not early on when you're trying to find yourself and gain some momentum for as we've said, a super young baseball team.
Yeah, that's why it's like the conflicting feelings. You played about as well as you could have to be disappointed and go 1-2. Because like you said, we saw a lot of encouraging things at the plate. But you just, what has kind of been a strength came up short today in your bullpen, but you showed that fight that has been lacking. You put, quality at bats together, for stretches, but yeah, to win game 1 and then have a 5-0 lead here in game 3 and to eventually lose the series. It does suck, but you got to find a way to get that game back at some point over the next 9 weekends.
Yeah. It's 30 games doesn't sound like a lot, but we saw last year, it's certainly not how you start, it's how you finish. So a lot to build on this weekend if we're trying to be positive, Matt, but gosh, that one, especially when you feel like you just took the lead again and you get robbed at the wall. What a crazy way to end the first series. But it was crazy across the league all weekend. Friday night was a madhouse. Texas,
that was nuts.
Texas,
everything about that was nuts. That Vandy LSU game was just...
That game was crazy. Texas was up 7-3 going into the ninth and gives up 5.
Drew Gilbert on them.
A grand slam to take the lead. And then they ended up tying it and then lost in the 11th. So that one was crazy. Florida, South Carolina did not bring their bats on Friday. Looks like Florida brought them today, but South Carolina was 1 out away from a no-hitter. It wouldn't have ended the game, but it would have got them through 9 innings with a no-hitter. It was 0-0 going into, I think, finally Florida scored and won it 1-0 in the 11th. That one was wild. And then I'm trying to think. I think Missouri and Auburn played a couple tight ones.
Had a light delay at one point. Which is crazy.
SEC.
It's not the SEC, but USC was the last unbeaten team, and they lost at Northwestern in what was like a snowstorm game.
Oh my gosh, that is wild. SEC baseball is back. It was a fun weekend. Arkansas, Mississippi State. That one, Arkansas hit a walk-off homer on Friday night as well. There were a ton of walk-offs or ninth inning lead changes around the league this weekend. So better buckle up, Matt. If you thought today was crazy, it's just the beginning. You know what I mean? But let's go back to the phones. Again, if you want to jump in the conversation, 865-200-5402. Would love to get your thoughts on the opening weekend for Tennessee Vols. Welcome in. You're on the air.
Hey, Will. It's Andrew Maryville.
Hey, Andrew. How was your week?
It was pretty good. I thought we were going to have a great weekend there after Friday. But, kind of zooming out, my goal coming into the weekend was just not to get swept. I don't think this team's to that level where we can go on the road and expect to win very often. So happy to get the one. It's just to be so close to getting that win is really frustrating.
Did this weekend change your mind at all about maybe the next time the Vols go on the road?
Oh, no, it did. The lineup surprised me so much. I couldn't believe how you talked about it. Our approaches at the plate were a lot better. Maybe seeing Grimmer and Wright inserted kind of rubbed off on other people because their approaches have been great. And even Blaine Brown had that homer yesterday, stayed back on the breaking ball and put that thing out. He's looked a lot different. Chapman is locked in, and obviously, Manny's on a heater. Definitely, even though we lost the series, it makes me feel a lot more confident going forward.
Yeah, I got to tell you, I feel like a bozo a little bit about Chapman. I was pretty tough on him. He started slow, and just coming off of how last year ended, I was pretty out on him. I was like, you know what? Yeah. We need to just let some young guys roll. Heck, he's been, outside of Ford, you could say he's been the most productive guy in the lineup.
I was there with you too. I was ready for some other guys to get in there, and yeah, he's just. I think just because he's the one guy that's been here, we have some higher expectations. But I mean, he had at least 4 RBIs this weekend.
Yeah, that RBI double with 2 outs in the first inning was a great swing. That got us on the board. Tennessee's next road series, by the way, Andrew, is 2 weeks from now in Nashville.
To Nashville, okay.
Against the Vandy boys, the Vandy girls.
I think we put up a better fight than what LSU did the first 2 games. Their pitching's been pretty atrocious.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe it was one of those deals where LSU was, just not super locked in, and SEC play would come around and you kind of see the talent a little bit, but I just think they're not very good.
No, I mean
they lost.
LSU had all the midweek losses and given up a ton of runs, and you kind of shake it off and think it's just midweeks, but that's just they're not as deep as they usually are.
Well, you look at, if you remember last year, the 2 freshmen, Cohen and Evans, were absolute dynamite for them. You obviously had Cade, Anderson, and Anthony Ianson as their 1-2 punch, but then Evans out of the pen and Cohen was starting some. If Evans didn't throw, then he would start that game 3. Down the run, it was basically just those 4 guys. So you're like, okay, Cohen and Evans are going to be next in line. Well, they've got a 6.5 and a 7.5 ERA respectively. So that doesn't help you when you thought those 2 guys were going to carry the load for you. But yeah, they have really struggled, and it wasn't just a Sacramento State wonky weekend for them. I think they've lost like 5 of 6 now. So
no, yeah, they're. I'd be surprised if they're ranked. I don't know how you could justify it.
No.
So what is this now? Is this the third example of Levi having a great day when he's behind the plate?
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. Stone hit a homer on Friday, and he had a good weekend overall offensively. So I don't know how unless you're going to DH Stone and let Levi catch to try to get the best offense out of both of them. But I certainly do think Levi, will find a way to get some run this weekend before Sunday, or this next weekend before Sunday. Be interesting to see how they use him.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. I was really hoping Myatt to get the bat going, because I'll tell you what, he looked really comfortable at second. I don't think he ever played that at Walter State, but he looked very natural there.
I thought he played there last year, but I said that I said that to someone else, and they were surprised. I think he played there last year, but we need to get confirmation on that. But you're right, he made that amazing play in the hole on, I guess it was yesterday, or maybe it was Friday.
He had the quick turn on the double play as well, I think, yesterday. Yeah. Yep.
Newstrom's been solid there too, so as good as Manny's been at short. I think the point about, having Ariel there for the defense when you need it, but they've been solid enough up the middle to where you can kind of lean on the offense first there, for sure. Yeah, that's definitely helpful.
I was going to ask you about, obviously it's going to be different with, Tony and Frank versus now with Josh and Josh, I guess. What's the relationship like in the dugout when you're talking about making a change? Does it's obviously always the head coach's, decision. It falls on their shoulders, but would you ever have the pitching coach maybe pushing the head coach a little bit, saying, I really think we should make a change here? Or is it, will the head coach ever ask for what they think? Or is it just kind of, how does that relationship work from your perspective?
Yeah, I know Frank was not scared to give his opinion, and honestly, they would butt heads over it every now and then. Okay. But they got into a really good rhythm. I would imagine Josh and Josh collaborate, but ultimately it's Elander who makes that decision. And he's had some good ones and he's had some questionable ones, but the one with Krenzel today, I think we can all agree he would like to have back. Yeah. So,
well, I think with Krenzel, it would make more sense if it was kind of this like war of a weekend series and the bullpen's kind of depleted. But
yeah, it's like,
you have everybody available.
Yeah,
I think Frederick and Rudy were out there for like 15 minutes just waiting to come in, and I don't know, that was puzzling.
Yeah.
Let me ask you: do you think that they could have gone to Arbison if they needed to today? Because I thought maybe once it kind of got kind of close, they might go back to him.
I wouldn't have. I saw he was down there, but especially because he wasn't even ready to start the season.
Right.
I wouldn't have done it today. Now in May, absolutely.
Right.
Zero question, but not today.
All right. Well, I appreciate you and Matt doing the show. I thank you.
All right, Andrew, be good, man. We'll go straight to the next one. Welcome in, Garza Law Extra Innings. You're on the air.
Hey, Will, Matt, this is Gary. How you guys doing?
What's up, Gary? Good to hear from you.
Yep, thank you. That was a little tough. I know I've been listening for the last few minutes, and I was out driving around, so I've not had a chance to see the catch yet. But it sounds like it was definitely he robbed the guy, right? He robbed Stone totally above the fence.
It was, yeah. That's what it looked like to me. I've only seen it once.
Yeah.
But I mean, Stone threw his bat down like he was holding Thor's hammer. So, I mean, he thought he got it.
Yeah. Guys, I always try to find the positive, and I'm always going to try to fall on the positive here. But man, that to me, that seems like more than just one loss. I mean, that was a series on the road in the SEC that, as you well know, Will, those are hard to come by, and it was right there for the taking today.
Yeah. Yeah, that would have been Tennessee's first Sunday win in an SEC game, period, home or away, since like the middle of last year. Because you remember they lost their last 5, and they went into Sunday 1-1 in all of them. Couldn't win a Sunday game to save their life, and they were never as close as they were today.
Yeah.
So, Matt,
I was going to say on the positive, the bats come alive for sure this weekend. We hit better. We fielded it better. There were spots when our pitching was really good. And it looks to me like all the SEC teams, I mean, put them in a blender, shake them up, and there's a lot of teams that are pretty equal. There's not like a huge dominating team out there.
No, there's not. I would go in Tier 1 right now, Arkansas, Mississippi State, who played this weekend, and Texas. And then in Tier 2, you've got a big old group.
Yeah.
Which I think you could argue Tennessee's in that group. Matt, is that the way you see it?
Yeah. I think you can put Tennessee in whatever the Tier 2, however big that is. Tennessee's probably at the bottom of that. Yeah, I think you can include them because they had the talent to do that. Yeah. I mean, if you're going to include Vandy, which I think you do, and LSU, teams who have struggled probably more than Tennessee even. I think there's a huge gap there. And I think Kyle Peterson on that Vandy LSU game last night brought it up exactly what you said, Gary. He's like, I mean, he doesn't think that a team's going to win 22 or 23 league games this year. He thinks maybe 20 and 10 could be what wins the league, or at least kind of is a share for the league title because it is so compact and there's not a quote unquote super team.
Yeah, and again, I think we committed our first error of the weekend today. They gave Jay an error. He bobbled that ball, I guess, in center field a little bit or slipped, but they gave him an error, and so that is to me that's a great sign right there. And the guys even after giving up the lead, the guys never quit. They battle back in the ninth. So that shows me the heart that this team's going to have too. And they wanted. Well, that Josh knows he left Krenzel in too long. He knows that. If he had to do that over again, I'm sure he was going to do that. Hopefully he learns from that. But then also the guys wanted to have his back there, and they tried to come back and battle back and come up off the mat and still try to win that thing, and ended up being just a little bit short. So I think if we can get that kind of effort, offensively, defensively, pitching, and Josh will learn from that, and we'll be better next weekend.
Yeah, I agree. Certainly with the comment about, you call it whatever you want, fight or, getting in the heat of the competition. I mean, this group has shown that they'll play anybody tight, and they've got a little juice to them, and I think that was something last year that was missing a little bit. Is like when you got punched, there wasn't a whole lot of punch back. And look, it's easy to say, okay, they've got fight because a guy made a good swing and you scored. It's such a result-based thing. It's like, yeah, it's easy to say a team has a fight when they produce. Doesn't mean they're trying any harder than the team that didn't. Everybody struck out. They could have been trying too hard, So that's a finicky term, but I do think there is something to having a knack for being able to throw a punch back when you get punched. That is certainly a key and a factor when you're talking about going into games such as this one where it's going to be a back and forth, that sort of thing. It was a classic Sunday game, just very, very back and forth. You knew it wasn't over even when it was 5-0, but you would have liked to find a way to hold on, certainly. So I agree. Yeah.
You guys have a great day, have a great week, and go Vols.
Appreciate you, brother. Matt, what's your thoughts there? Like, do you think it's just kind of random? The whole fight thing, it gets thrown out a lot, or like having pride when stuff's not going your way, being able to turn momentum back. Like, it just seems touchy to me.
Yeah. And like you said, it's results based. I think it's a lot easier to notice and point out when teams don't have it than when they do. We talked about last year's team, like when they got down, especially in those Sunday rubber games, if they got down early, like there was just very little competitive fight back, and they wound up getting kind of blown out in a lot of those games, like just weren't competitive late. And really the whole weekend. You know, is back and forth, and you answered a lot of Georgia's. You know, whenever Georgia would score, you kind of came back and fought and put some runs up for most of the weekend. You even did it, you know, in the ninth today with you nearly scored 3. So I do think this team has some of that. But it's a lot easier to point it out when it seems like a team doesn't have that and just doesn't have that kind of makeup. I don't know if that's something a team can ever like develop throughout a season, but it's pretty obvious when they don't seem to have that.
Well, I was going to ask you this. That's kind of where I was going with it. We talked about before the first game of the year, or I guess it was after a few games when the offense was struggling, and we were trying to figure out why. We talked about how young they were. Did you see anything this weekend where you're like, wow, I can really start to see him grow up? I think most specifically for me, Blaine Brown and the quality of at-bat that he had this weekend. Way less chase, way more fighting balls off with 2 strikes. He stung a ball to left field his first at-bat of the weekend. I think that led to him driving the ball to right field because it keeps you on the baseball a little bit longer. That's a sign of growth to me. I don't know what you saw, but I think offensively we saw him grow up a lot this weekend.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. His swing decisions are a lot better, and you know he can kind of cut that swing down with 2 strikes and just put the ball in play. We did see some improvement there. And then I think Manny Marin's kind of built on the last couple of games now that he's fully healthy with his hand. And I think without question, he's your everyday shortstop going forward. And I think that's a big piece in this. You're not, rotating guys with him and Ariel kind of flipping or whatever. I think you lock him in at short because he's had a number of just really big and clutch hits, not just this year, but even going back last year. And he's been pretty good there at short. I think you can kind of keep him there. Grimmer and we talked about Chapman. Both of those guys kind of hit behind with each other. I know Chapman's kind of a reverse splits guy and Grimmer's kind of similar. So they're kind of unique in that aspect, but they've been pretty good. Garrett Wright's been really good at getting on base. I know Jay really struggled this weekend. It looked like he was probably pressing because he's playing back home. But even if he's your 9-hole hitter, I think that's a really good 9-hole hitter that you've got if he can cut down on the strikeouts just a little bit.
Yeah, well, they had Marin in the 6-hole today. I was going to ask you if you thought, I know Chapman had an unbelievable weekend, so I hate to move him down, but would you slide Manny in between Grimmer and Reese just to break it up a little bit?
I wouldn't. It wouldn't bother me at all if you did that. Yeah, I mean, kind of split up the righty lefty deal. But yeah, I just think Marin's a really really good player, and kind of has a knack for it, for coming up in those clutch spots. So yeah, I mean, I just think he's got a chance to be really one of the better shortstops in the league with how well he hits at the plate because. He hits it a lot more powerful than he looks up there.
Yeah,
he looks like a little guy. So, but he's, we say he's draft eligible for a reason, and I think that's, he's probably going to play his way into being drafted if he keeps this up.
His hand speed is elite. He'll be drafted this year on the trajectory that he's on now. I mean, it looks like he's going. So he could end up hitting even higher in the order by the end of it, and not because anybody in front of him deserves to move down, but he's elite. Or he could stay there. He seems pretty comfortable. I don't know. We'll see. Long way to go, as I said. Let's go back to the phones. Again, 865-200-5402 here on Garza Law, Tennessee Baseball Extra Innings. Also, shout out to Proper Popcorn. Appreciate the sponsorship and being a partner of the show. Hope you're having a good Sunday. Welcome in. You're on the air. Garza Law Extra Innings.
Hey, guys. Great program. I think it's interesting. I wanted to ask you, Will, about Friday night. That play that happened over at Tennessee's dugout where nobody moves and then the ball hits the backup catcher. I think it hit him like in the sternum. And then the reaction from the team in Friday night's game, how together they looked. I mean, I could be speaking out of school here, but I didn't feel like last year we saw any moments like that from last year's team. And I guess that's the thing that hurts the most about giving this game away today is it felt like that camaraderie was starting to come. These guys had sort of, I don't know, like a throwback to a couple years feel to it. They're playing with a little attitude, playing with a little edge. The Johnson guy makes Georgia feel a little more hateable. It just really stinks, guys, to give that game back. But your thoughts on what we saw Friday? Have you ever seen that in a game where everybody just kind of hugs the edge of the dugout, and they didn't say anything to the guys trying to field the ball? That's why they didn't call interference on the Vols. Pretty old school there to let the ball hit you. What were your thoughts on that?
Matt, this guy would never speak out of school. He would never.
No, I thought that was a funny moment, and just kind of heads up by the dugout for everybody to kind of be aware, because your natural instinct is to kind of get out of the way.
Yep. But
they kind of know if you stand still and don't move and don't interfere with anything, kind of be an obstacle and keep the guy from making a play. And even though I think it was Stonewall's batting, even though I think he wound up striking out, you had that Marin game-tying double like a batter or two later. So I thought that was a really funny moment, and it's something I noted for my kind of weekend recap, that was kind of a cool moment that, you were trailing at that point in a game, in I guess the only game in the weekend you wound up winning. So I thought there is something a little to that. That was kind of a fun little wrinkle.
Yeah,
and these guys are punching back, I guess, is the other thing, which was interesting today to see them get off the deck twice. And look, the ball wasn't gone there at the end, but by most accounts, generally that ball is going to leave the yard. I mean, a kid with that much experience probably knows when it feels good off his bat. That was just very strange that it was blown down. I want to ask you guys something, and Andrew and Maryville touched on this, but it's an interesting point. I just wanted to kind of unpack with you guys. Chris Burke says you can tell from these managers by the way they manage these games. So that said, when we have a full bullpen like that, this is what I'm trying to understand about this game. And it's officially baseball season when we're all pissed off at each other. And, the thing it just does something to you. This thing in this league, it just does something to you when you're watching it. What were they telling us today by the way they managed that game? Can you guys explain that to me? Because I'm trying to figure out what they were thinking as they managed that game the way they did.
Yeah. Well, let me go back to the dugout point really quick, and then we'll dig into the managerial decisions, which we do have to take it with a grain of salt, as we do have a rookie manager. I would argue that Tony Vitello made different decisions in years 6 and 7 than he did in his first year there in 2018. But the hold your ground thing in the dugout that happened on Friday is entirely dependent on who is in the field. If your team is in the field, get out of the way, or duck and hold, be ready to catch your teammate as he dives over the railing to try to catch a ball. But if the opposing team is coming over to your dugout, you hold your ground. That was a big Quentin Eberhardt thing. That fired up Tony when stuff like that would happen. So cool that they still, do it that way. But I don't know that I've ever seen one that close and actually hit a guy and really prevent, the defender from catching it, because I think he does catch it if they get out of the way. So pretty neat deal there. And I thought, stuff like that does kind of bring you together. And I don't know that losing the series erased all of that, because, as you guys said, I mean, they were in it till the very last 2 feet of the weekend, and they were a foot away from taking the lead again. So if you're Elander trying to portray a message to a defeated team after that, you gotta keep it as positive as you can, especially for the road trip back. And it's like, hey guys, we gotta look and see at the growth we had this weekend. And look, I'm young, you guys are young. We're trying to figure out how to win in a really hard league, but look how dang good we are. You know what I mean? And that's the way I would spin it. But let's dig into the managerial decisions, TB, because you can tell a lot by the way that these guys manage their teams, and it certainly will change throughout the year and even more so throughout their career. But one thing that I thought was interesting was even pinch hitting Stone in that situation, because he's your other catcher, right? And you know, unlikely, but let's say this thing ends up going 12, 13, 14 innings and Levi gets hurt. Well, now your only catcher option is Trent Grindlinger, who's a freshman and hasn't caught meaningful innings at all. So typically, in the past, Tony would have been very reluctant to pinch hit your catcher, who was not in the lineup for that day. So interesting move there, but I think generally they've had a longer leash than some other programs with some of their arms, and like with Arvidsson on Friday, I think the first or second guy of his outing, he walked and it was a little squirrely, and there were a couple jams that he was able to wiggle out of, and you look at the end of it when he settled in and cruised to the victory, it was like, okay, that was a phenomenal outing. But then it can go the other way where you're trying to get Krenzel to that same point and it never happens, and then you've left him in and you blink and you're losing. So just learning experiences, all of it, for us, for them, for the team, the whole 9 yards. Matt, how did you see it?
Yeah, it just didn't look like Krenzel had. I mean, he just didn't have it today. We talked about how, and the broadcast talked about it, how even his warm-up pitches were just way off, and he was clearly uncomfortable out there. You mentioned the velo being down, Will. You clearly left him in, at least, I mean, at the absolute worst, one batter too long, but probably two, because you had, outside of Arvidsson and Appenzeller, you had a full bullpen. I guess Hendy would have been your only lefty down there, but you just needed to make a move earlier. It's just really frustrating that they left him in there when it was obvious he didn't have it. They'd already stolen a couple of outs earlier in the game with Blanco, and I guess even he gave up that home run, which wound up being a big run, but it just you had the full complement down there with those righties that you obviously you needed to put somebody else in, but hopefully you learn from that, and hopefully it doesn't affect Krenzel long term either.
And the crazy thing too, guys, is when you think back to that game of why it's such a wild sport, Georgia had already used 4 or 5 pitchers to that point, and they were going through guys like. They were almost at the end of their rope pitching-wise. We had a decisive advantage. We had our starter in the game in the 5th, and then all of a sudden it's 5-2. But then with Krenzel, I mean, Matt, I'll own this. We were talking Friday night. In my mind, now obviously he didn't have the velo today. Doesn't there have to be a gear where the manager or a pitching coach or somebody where they recognize that and they go, hey, you're coming out of the game. It's not personal. It's just not your day today.
I've got a buddy, Tony, I've got a lot of buddies that pitched in pro ball, but one specifically who watched this game today made the comment, look, if you're 97 the week prior and you're throwing 92 this week, rain or not, you're coming out of the game for like preemptive measures, because they don't want, they're going to be asking you if you're hurt. Now, I know the rain was a big factor there, but the bigger deal to that was the breaking ball just had no spin, no bite, and it was just he had walked a few and got to the point where he had to just throw a couple cookies in there, and that was not the part of the order to throw a couple cookies in there. And I'm not going to throw salt on the guy. I mean, my worst experience in college was like Loyola Marymount on a Friday night, a game where it just rained the whole game. We had a big lead. I come in for some mop-up duty. I think I was a sophomore, maybe a junior. I don't remember. And walked like 2 or 3 guys immediately, got pulled. The next guy comes in, immediately gives up a double down the line. All of a sudden, it's a close game again, and they put in Redmond Walsh, who, Tennessee's all-time saves leader. He throws like 3 over the catcher's head in warm-ups, and they call the game. Well, the other team is obviously pissed because they're like, oh, we had to throw through that. Like, they need to finish the inning, and then you can call it, because he had no shot to throw a strike either, but he was saying the mound was too wet, what I should have done, and they got the game called. But I felt terrible because the next morning we had to finish that game and use our Sunday starter to like finish that game and then kind of like bridge us into the next one. So I say all that to say I'm not throwing salt in the wound of anybody who struggles in the rain, because that was certainly not my best day. Now I had other days where I, was able to control it a little bit better, but it's tough coming out of the pen when you're all wet and you haven't been out there. It's a little, if you're gonna pitch in the rain, you'd rather kind of be the starter because you got time to do your warm up and settle into it. It's like you get thrown out of there in the bullpen in the rain, and it's a different beast. But he just didn't have it, and so at that point it had kind of slowed down. So it's like, well, maybe you had somebody whose hand and uniform was drier, so get them in there. Just all that stuff kind of plays a factor.
Surely we're not going to see that again, right, guys? Are we all confident in that? Matt, you're confident in that?
That they leave a guy in too long?
Yes.
And it blows up on them? I mean, I'm sure they'll do it a handful more times this year.
They'll do it.
So
Team
there'll also
USA
be a
tonight
handful
will
of
do
times
it.
they leave a guy in too long, but they end up getting out of a jam anyway. So
The Giants will do it. The Braves will do it.
It just was too obvious today that, I mean, once Jackson, you found a way to keep him in the park, but I mean, he just roped that one in the center on the first pitch he saw. You had to go get him. You just had to. I mean, maybe they just didn't have anybody up and warm or whatever. Maybe they didn't like the matchup, because I think it was that pinch hitter who had pinch hit earlier in the game was the guy up there at the plate. But you just can't leave Krenzel out there to throw basically a batting practice fastball to the guy.
Easy money is what that was. Well, boys, thanks. Thanks for being there.
Hey, thanks for the call, Tony. We'll go straight to the next caller, Matt. Welcome in. You are on the air.
Hello.
Hey, welcome in. You're on the air.
Oh, hey, Will. It's Taylor. Hey, Matt. Just leaving Athens and just catching the tail end of the show. But I guess my thoughts were the baseballs competed. Certainly gave it their all. It felt a little flat after getting up 5-0. But you're dead right. Krenzel, I want to say 5, maybe even 6 of his warm-ups hit the backstop, and probably 4 of those on the fly. He did not have it. It was evident. And sometimes you probably know, Will, better than anybody. Sometimes your warm-ups don't look great and game action happens and you're under control. He never felt comfortable from the get-go. And, I'm sure Elander and team would like to have that decision back.
No doubt, T-Man. No doubt. How was the environment down there?
You know what? I'm just very unimpressed with Georgia Bulldog fans. They're certainly football. I'll say this: they got chippy. I was there Friday, Saturday, and then today. It got chippy towards the end. Fans got into it when they had that big 7. That 7 in the 7th inning. I guess 5 runs in the 7th. And I don't know if they showed it, but I mean, Wes has a lot of gimmicks, man. That guy's always, calling weird offensive timeouts, arguing with the umpire. But I think the guy, he obviously is a heck of a coach, and his timing, whether it's offensive timeouts or just delaying things, he's got the rhythm of the team. And boy, I've never seen a coach argue more than that guy over in the Georgia dugout.
He was on one this weekend, and Tony Basilio said that he has always been like that. Maybe I just didn't notice it. He seemed real whiny is the nicest word I can use for it this weekend. I don't remember him acting that way, but certainly did not gain a fan in me. And hey, look, I'm very open-minded. I will respect game when I see it. There's some coaches around the league that I would let my son play for in a heartbeat. But I don't know that he's one of them right now. He seemed like a real prick this weekend.
exceptionally unlikable. He's definitely got the leprechaun syndrome, little man syndrome.
Yeah, there was a lot of Mike Bianco in there this weekend, Matt. Just, wanting it to be about him.
He reminds me a lot of Jay Johnson at LSU, just constantly, chirping with umpires and calling all these timeouts throughout games, making a lot of pitching changes and things like that. He reminds me of Jay Johnson in that way. But he does rub off in a bad way to opposing teams.
Well, everybody loved our head coach, didn't they, Taylor? They were so sad when Tony left.
Well, yeah, definitely. I wish they would go back. I wish the sports information director would go back and look at the number of times when the baseballs played on the road, how many attendance records were set because everybody had to see the baseballs. And, obviously Tony was a huge part of that. And I still recall, I think you guys were talking about on the Daily Show, SEC tournament when Mississippi State was mouthing off at Tony when he was making a pitching change. And I think SEMO flexed and those guys backed down. But, yeah, they were definitely the villains. I think that's changed. I was impressed. I sat right above the dugout and could hear Elander and conversing and just watching him in action. And that guy is a cool customer. Like his blood pressure never gets up, never goes up. He's just calm, cool, and collected. And I like that. I think there's a place for that. Ross is fiery.
Yep. Chuck seems fiery.
Is pretty fiery.
Hey, let me ask you, what was Chuck barking at the first base umpire about? It was after the home run. By I think it was the leadoff hitter Ryan Black.
Yesterday?
It was yesterday, yeah. And Drew Allman was letting the umpire have it, and there was a hot mic over there, so we caught a very short glimpse of, or I guess short audio of what he was saying. But I couldn't figure out what he was mad about. It couldn't have been the bat flip because there was nothing there.
No, I have no idea. I wondered that as well because he got a warning. He absolutely got a warning for whatever went down, and I was sitting the other end of the dugout, so didn't have the best vantage point, but saw it. And Chuck was hot, and yeah, he got a warning. Never understood what that was about. I was hoping maybe the TV audience got a better glimpse of it.
No.
But yeah, Chuck's pretty fiery. I kind of like to see that. Ross, as we all know, is fiery. I'll say this, and I'm not going to name the name, but I saw one player, just a complete lack of hustle on a double play. He could have run it out, gotten out of a double play.
Yeah.
And a situation, and you know this, Heflin.
I thought he was getting pulled after this, by the way.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I thought he would have been pulled immediately after that happened, but he didn't.
Well, and the day before, that same player's on second base, and I believe it was Garrett Wright, hit one off the fence, right? And there was 2 outs. And anybody that's played organized baseball knows when there's 2 outs and you're the base runner, you haul ass all the way through home plate. You don't let up because guess what? There's a chance crazy play can happen. A guy going into for a double gets tagged out, and you don't cross home plate, run doesn't count. I couldn't believe it. Just jogging in, and Chuck took him aside, had some choice words for him, coached him up. But I don't get that. Like if you're going to be so suave, give more effort. I don't get angry with her errors and getting struck out. When I see a lack of hustle, I got no tolerance for that. It's hard to watch, but man, that guy sure hit the ball, played well. Guys, enjoy the show. I think the baseballs, they showed a lot of grit. Stone Lawless, being there, I don't know what it was like on TV, and I'll leave you with this. I thought that ball was hit over the trees. I didn't think there was a chance of that ball off Lawless's bat that was staying anywhere near the ballpark. I was celebrating. Everybody else was. I know Lawless was. The dugout was. And then it got chippy because some of the Georgia players decided to come towards the dugout, and I think Ariel lost his everlasting mind. But cooler heads prevailed, but it was a fun show. Guys, keep up the great work. Go Vols.
Good call from T right there, Matt. Yeah, that's inevitable. When a play like that happens the way it did happen, you know it's going to get chippy, Matt. So that's all par for the course. Did you happen to see the play he was referencing? It was Manny did not run out. That ball would have ended up being safe, but I didn't know if he had tweaked something or whatever
just
the
gave up
reason.
on
But
it, yeah.
I guess
That was a bad look.
Taylor didn't get a better view of it being live than we did on the replay. They didn't really spend any time on it in the broadcast.
Because he was still safe, right?
No, he was out. They tagged him. The first baseman came off the bag and tagged him. Yeah, they didn't care.
Clear, he was jogging down the line.
Yeah, they're a Georgia crew. They don't care, which they shouldn't. Good for them. I do want to touch on, the more I've thought about the Geralman thing when he got the warning. I wonder if I need to go back and look at what happened to the hitter before, because there's no way he was chirping about the bat flip. If he was, then he saw something I didn't see. But I'm wondering if the hitter before, because their 9-hole was a right-handed hitter, I wonder if there was a check swing that they didn't get that led to a much longer at bat. And then obviously the next kid comes up and hits a homer. That's kind of an assist, if you will. I mean, how often do you see it, Matt? Long AB, maybe he ends up getting out anyways, but the next kid hits a jack. You know what I mean? So that could have been why he was mad. Maybe the first base umpire ruled a no swing the at bat before, and then that's the carryover, and Chuck, loses his mind there. Or maybe there was something, a little chirp in the dugout that we would never hear or see on the broadcast that the coaching staff being right there could see. Maybe there's something verbal, but the bat flip itself was very minimal, if anything. It was more of just like held it for a second and then tossed it down. Like, it wasn't towards Tennessee or anything, 2 feet. So I don't want to turn a nothing burger into a something burger when I don't have to, but just a thought there for those that look deeper into that one as well. I wonder if there was something that happened the at bat before that he was pissed about that ended up carrying over.
Yeah, the check swing makes a lot of sense because Tennessee was kind of on the wrong end of those for the weekend. There's a couple of 50-50 ones in yesterday's game that went against Tennessee and went for Georgia. But after Blake Burks in Omaha a few years ago, it's hard to get upset with check swings. Tennessee can lose 75% of those 50-50 calls for the next decade, and it's still worth it.
I know. It's like, how long am I allowed to, or how long until I'm allowed to feel like we got hosed on check swings? Because I'm in the same boat as you. Anytime I'm like, oh my gosh, that was terrible, I'm like, but we got Burks. And I know everybody else
wins the Natty at Florida State. We're on the good end of that.
When Link Jarrett wins a Natty at Florida State, then we can complain when
we can start getting upset at check swings again. Yes.
Okay. That could never happen, or it could be next season.
I think he's a really, really good coach,
and he's got a really, really good club that's not getting a lot of attention for God knows why. Their first baseman, Miles Bailey, is a unit. I know the Jackson kid has 14 homers for Georgia, but that Miles Bailey kid has next level power, and it is unreal. I think he was a two-way. I think he's just playing baseball now. Two-way as in he played football, D-line for the Seminoles. But anyways, he's already hit a couple homers, and Florida State's good. So hopefully that happens soon, just not when Tennessee has a chance to. Because I do like Link Jarrett. He's one of the coaches I like, which is few and far between. So anyways, Matt, we'll jump off here. I do appreciate your time, as always. I'm really excited. Baseball season's back. I'm even more excited. It's SEC baseball. I know this weekend stung, but I would rather sting than not feel it all, baby, because after that Kent State series, I think there were a lot of people real worried, and I think this weekend confirmed anything. It's that Tennessee's going to be very competitive this year, and they may not win a national championship under Josh Elander in the first season, but I'm not going to sit here and say they can't win one under him because, like T said, his demeanor is cool, calm, and collected, and he's got plenty of psychos around him for the energy. So it seems like a good mix, and they certainly have fight. They need to get better. He needs to get better. We can all agree on that. But it seems like it's going to be a fun group to follow. So, Matt, hope you have a good weekend, man. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, enjoyed it. A lot of encouraging signs, even though a disappointing end result. You nearly stole, I don't want to say steal, but you nearly won a series on the road against the top 10 team. So
yeah.
a
The
lot
number
of
one
encouraging
offense,
signs. You just got to continue to build on it, continue to stack those quality at bats, because that was really lacking throughout non-conference play, and you finally had that today. So a lot of encouragement at the plate, and just continue to keep building it, and the wins will come.
Yep. Those basically just nothing throwaway innings seem much fewer and further between this week. So encouraging for sure. Again, shout out Garza Law. This is Garza Law Extra Innings. Shout out to Proper Popcorn. You got to try their Rocky Top, the Nealon mix. I don't know why I called it Rocky Top, Matt. Nealon mix. It's spicy buffalo and white cheddar. It's fire. And the s'mores. S'mores is probably my little biased opinion, the favorite. But they've got 2 locations, downtown Knoxville and West Knoxville, Franklin Square at the shops. The shops at Franklin Square. I'm talking backwards. Need to get off here. Have a wonderful week. Tune in to Tony Basilio. Regularly scheduled programming. 7 Eastern tonight. Draw show. See, I didn't even know what was going on. Do the draw show at 7. Hang out with him tomorrow at 11. I'm sure he'll have plenty to talk about Tennessee baseball and Tennessee basketball after Selection Sunday. Give him a shout, 865-200-5402. You got to join the conversation. He's talking out of school, as always. Crazy man. But I'm Will Heflin, your host, Garza Law Extra Innings. Thanks for tuning in. Next week, we will be back after the Missouri Game 3, hopefully sweep. Poor Missouri. I don't want to talk bad about anybody, Matt Dixon, but you need all 3 next week. And
they had to measure the lights at their stadium just so they could finish their night game Friday night. They had to literally, I don't know how they do it, but they had to measure the lights to make sure there was enough brightness to play. That's how serious Missouri takes baseball.
Look, I know you got to focus on what you can focus on. Like Georgia's football. And I totally agree with that. You've got Kirby Smart. That's your main deal. They're good at baseball too, but football's the focus. I don't know what Missouri is focused on. I guess football. But those poor souls, man. They are so far behind that athletic
when we
department.
get off, have Tony tell you the Kirby Smart story with Tennessee's tennis coach when we get off there.
Okay.
It's hilarious.
Okay. I don't think anybody can really be elite in all 3 unless you're, endless pockets in today's landscape. Maybe Texas could be up there in all 3. A&M, if they got 3 coaches in place, they could do it. But I mean, I'm of the belief you kind of got to choose 2. But I don't want to be on here spewing that, because I know Tennessee is fairly well balanced and competitive in all 3. So that's neither here nor there. But thanks again, Garza Law Extra Innings. I'm out of here this time. I've tried to wrap up twice. I'm doing it this time. Have a wonderful week. Be back with Tony in about 90 minutes for Selection Sunday. Cheers. No intro?
No, just start.
All right, welcome in. Garza Law Extra Innings, Tennessee baseball, here in the Ray Mears studio at the Basilio residence. Tennessee loses 8-7 in the rubber match in a rainy Athens in heartbreaking fashion. Still trying to wrap my head around what just went on.